One pain in the neck with my life. If I'm going to the library up here, which I really don't want to do, better take 2 bags of stuff to charge. What is my day job? Right. So 2 or 3 years I've spent some of the time trying to I was speaking to my friend Peter this morning. In his words, sometimes I need a hot poker stuck up my arse. Now, I'm not that kind of person. I like to find ways of revving people up who already have certain attitudes and they really care about those attitudes. Because now's the time. As all thoughtful people say, can't stand the word woke. And furthermore, I'm not really interested in what most of the commentariat refer to as woke. I'm interested in things like on my page yesterday or whatever, I put some pictures of a Palestinian woman. Now, I've met and known well several westernized Palestinians. I wrote 7th or 8th, 9th of October on my page. I didn't actually quite write this, but I really enjoy Arab people. Women, particularly westernized ones. But almost all Arab people I've known, even westernized, except for one. Oh yes, let's just start with this, because I just like women's insecurities. Of course, you can't even say that. That's the bloody problem. I personally only ever find myself attracted physically to a woman over 50. Full stop. In no way am I ever attracted to a younger woman under 50. I met a wonderful woman, probably about 38, 39 yesterday, speaking for 2 hours. Had a fantastic conversation, but I think a huge amount of this thing in the back of all this woke, but it's not that. It's a kind of inability to speak about what really does matter, get to us. I know that every 50-plus-year-old woman I probably ever met is deep down insecure. But I'm not going to be really found fucking amazingly sexually attractive. I can tell you now for a fact. Only 50-plus-year-old women the last 7 or 8 years have actually made me feel genuinely, fully attracted to them. Perhaps I should wish it wasn't the case. Anyway, to the point. So I kind of slightly, not provoke, it's the wrong way, look for common ground. Can we speak with a few people I know intelligently, maturely, fearlessly, enjoyably, make fun of, but in a good way, about this kind of woke stuckness? And probably the best of all is my 40-year-old friend Yasmin. I just know she's sick of it all. She's a mongrel, she's a half-breed, she's half Pakistani, half Heidi. Oh, don't tell me they're coming here. No, they're not. Right. She's the one I know. I mean, she's In a way, I know she's the key. If she had full license to speak, be herself, we had a lot of conversations last autumn. She's the key. But it's going to take more than one person. Anyway, I care that you can't say, even this Palestinian woman who, I don't know, a bit bereft. Oh, gee whiz, she's gorgeous. But then I realised, encountering her a few times, very materialistic. Her shopping bags have to be crisp and new and expensive. And this is like in my previously extremely humble Dowdy region. I know that 95% of people from or with heritage, lineage connected to Arab lands are pretty materialistic. I've lived there. I've spent a lot of, not a lot of time. I spent enough time in such places to know that, and I know that behind, deep down in the matters, the tragic matters concerning the plight of the Palestinian lineage, homelands, whatever you want to call, they very much, I'm afraid to say, have become addicted in a way to, there is a lot of aid money. Look at the film The Mayor on Ramallah. Anyway, it's all too difficult, except you're not allowed to say in Britain, they, no, let's not use the word they. You're not allowed to say, well, I'm sorry, most people, a lot of people, although not here, not in this region, but a lot of people in Britain, in the 80s, certainly 90s, we saw through materialism and consumerism. Most of the intelligent people, you could say, it's horrible, it's offensive. We're 40 years ahead. We're 50 years ahead. The lust, what you have to do to grab the money to pay for expensive lifestyles, even the gorgeous Palestinian. It does corrupt things subtly. Anyway, but you're not allowed to say this. If I said this, I know, I've said it to my friend Yasmin, I've said it to several people. Yasmin's half Arab, or half Pakistani. She knows, she lives in London. Not frightened of saying things, not frightened of having proper conversations. But in Britain, so many middle-aged people with whom one should be able to have intelligent conversations, just balanced, just honest. And there are far more interesting ones than that. You can't say that. Anyway, so to me, that's what kind of matters in the woke thing. But the problem with those people, mainly men, but women as well, who have woke has got their back up, is that you've got to stop and think. You've got to, with any battle, so it is a battle of kind of ideologies or styles or whatever, you've got to be clever enough, not smart, just you've got to stand back and use their arguments against them. And that's the wrong way of putting it. But a really good example is in terms of free speech. I mean, and unfortunately, I'm not an educated person. But over the years, like using Melvyn Bragg in our time, magnificent repository. I heard one on Hannah Arendt 6 years ago. You've got to do some homework, and then you find the arguments. I'm not going to say weapons. You find an argument that uses almost the world back at them. But you've got to keep it simple. Now, there are various arguments about messing with sexuality, or far more importantly, fertility. But on freedom of speech, And it's as simple as this. And it scares me how hardly anybody my age is educating themselves properly, broadly. A brilliant anti-woke argument, but you have to ponder it, you have to practice it, you have to think about it, you have to think from the other person's point of view, or rather the other side's point of view. I mean, this is quite simple. You can put it in 3 sentences, or 4 sentences probably. To any, and this is the opposite of misogynistic. Sorry, a few good women do say that the tyranny of a lot of the woke has originated out of women, middle-aged women. You can simply say this, and you've got to kind of confect cartoon characters almost. Literally to any middle-aged, wonderfully worthy woman professor of the humanities in any of the medium or higher up universities, to them, who many say kind of lead the woke, and none of these people are left, by the way. Left means being properly environmentalistic. They're all materialistic. They care about getting their hair done every other week. Blah blah blah. But you've got to use the heroine against them. If you say to any of these people the name Hannah Arendt, Hannah Arendt was arrested, a Jewish lady, was held by the Nazis, lucky not to have a fucking gun against their head, a magnificent thinker, spirit, writer, the goddess. Literally, to any professor of the humanities or any of these supposedly left regions in any university, the goddess. Use their goddess against them. Hannah Arendt said, your goddess, Hannah Arendt, unimpeachable Hannah Arendt. She was a racist bitch, because apparently her branch of Jewry were very, 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 very wanted to kill other branches of Jewry, but we won't mention that. Okay? Of her time. Your goddess, Hannah Arendt, said, when there are things we can't say in society, we already have a tyranny. That's what your goddess, she's my goddess as well, but that's what your goddess said. Now the problem is, none of the kind of blokes who've been reading, listening to far too many kind of centre-right, New Statesman, Spectator kind of the new breed of the heterodox thinkers, small c conservative. They don't stop and think of more intelligent ways, thoughtful, simple ways though, of counteracting the woke. And that's the problem. You've got to stop and think and ponder and be a little bit artful, but you don't want to be too clever. You don't want to be, because all of the angsty, you're fucking against freedom of speech, that doesn't work. That just puts everybody's back up on both sides. And that's what I've seen happen. And I've seen nobody, heard nobody, who gracefully can just find ways, and they may fail, of pulling the rug out a little bit. But you can't do it, you can't even be seen to be doing it antagonistically. You just have to have a quiet, funny, a bit of humour as well. Funny kind of rejoinder. Anyway, so I spend my time, some of the time, just attempting to find people who may be able to join up, maybe in a writers' group or something like that, to just think about how slightly more intelligent approaches such as that to these things that are tyrannies of sorts They're certainly oversensitivities. I'm the most feminine person there is. I laugh. I trained my daughter. I trained my daughter in the mid 2005s ish. If she wants to have a laugh and undermine her father, which you should train a child to do, read out the end of Watership Down in public if we're having a meal in a pub. Do you want to see my dad cry? Read out the end of Watership Down. I start crying immediately. Can't stop it. It's not confected either. But yeah, all of these tyrannies. You can't say that. You can't discuss that. You can't float into a conversation. Well, blah blah blah. Right, action. But I've